Thank you for attending today's Better Car People webinar presented by The Shop, powered by Ford Direct. Presenting today will be Aimi Gunderson and Tiffany Peeler from Better Car People. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into your webinar toolbar. Aimi and Tiffany, over to you.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Aimi Gunderson, and I am the Senior Director of Partner Relations at Better Car People. With me today, I have Tiffany Peeler. She is the Vice President of Sales and also a subject matter expert on all things automotive, but she's really great with the service end as well. So Tiffany and I are thrilled to be presenting today. We want to talk a little bit about customer retention secrets, boosting loyalty, and minimizing losses. If we can go to the next slide. Before we really begin, I want to jump in and just give you a brief introduction of who Better Car People is. We have been around since 2010, engaging with both sales and service automotive customers. And through that, we've been able to work with over 2,500 dealerships and answered over 2 million service appointments and scheduled over 2 million service appointments. So one thing that we've really learned is how to engage with customers and really how to streamline things to make efficiencies and just really create a better experience for you and your dealership on the service side. Now, we do all of this by utilizing collaborative intelligence. Collaborative intelligence is fantastic AI plus live people who are onshore. So we know that AI is fantastic and it's learning so quickly, but also sometimes AI can't answer questions. So we have the combination of AI and live onshore agents across the board. We have two major solutions, and I'm going to kind of caveat that in a second, but our two main solutions are Sales BDC and Service BDC. Today, obviously, we're going to be focusing mostly on our Service BDC, so we can talk about common issues that we see on the service side, how we can address those, but then also, if you don't want to address those on your own, we do have some solutions that can help in the end. All right, so now that you know who we are, we would love to talk about service engagement. Today's webinar is really going to look at issues with retention and then how to overcome them. So I think that everyone would agree that service is the foundation of any dealership. It's the largest continuous profit center that the dealership has, and service retention is critical for dealerships. Now, according to the 2023 Dealer Service Retention Report, which is what we're looking at right now, 48% of customers polled stated that they plan to purchase their next vehicle from the one that they're currently servicing their vehicle that they have right now. So if there's a great experience, they want to purchase their next vehicle from where they're having it serviced. And then we see that 8% said they were not going to, so they probably didn't have the best customer experience. But then there is 44% undecided. So today we want to talk about how do you retain and keep that 48%, but then how do you also grab that 44% of undecided to make sure they're servicing where they purchased and then continuing to purchase where they service. Now, another statistic that I think is key to note is that buyers who return to the selling dealers for service within 12 months are 74% more likely to purchase their next vehicle from them. So that really entails that retention piece. How do you get a recently, a new customer who just purchased a vehicle, how do you get them into the service lane within those 12 months and get them back? Because we know that that is going to increase your ability to then continue to service them. We also know that they're 35% more likely. Can we go back one? I'm so sorry. So sorry. We also know that the ones who didn't were 35% likely to return. So we want to make sure that we are hitting those marks and hitting them well. So again, we can agree that there's a definite opportunity to maintain, retain, and grow our service business while also acknowledging that as we grow that well with above average customer service, we're also going to be growing our overall sales. Some key numbers to point out in this slide are that 25 to 95% increase in profits. That first number is talking about customer retention rates by 5%. Let me start over again. Increasing customer retention rates by 5% increases profits by 25 to 95%. If we can keep our customers just by 5%, you're going to see that massive increase in growth. I believe that everyone has heard it's a lot cheaper to retain a customer than to find a new one. It's anywhere from 5 times to 25 times cheaper to retain a service customer than to go out and look for new ones and to bring them in. We know that marketing isn't cheap, and it's easier to maintain the customers that you have and increase their satisfaction. You have a database of your own customers. If you focus on the ones who are already doing business with you and you retain them, you can remove those defection points and you're immediately going to see profit gains. So these are two things that are relatively easy to address and to work with, but it all does come back to how you treat those service customers. Are you transparent? Are you trustworthy? And are you communicating and engaging with them well? If you're doing those points, then you're going to realize that 89% of customers say that a key factor in bringing them back and driving customer loyalty and retention is meeting those experience expectations. So as we continue to talk today, we've just kind of highlighted a couple different elements that we want to make sure that we address as service experts and we address in our service lane. And we have talked about a lot of data. So Tiffany, I'm going to throw it to you and you can start talking about some of the ways that we can approach this as, the service matter expert.
Thanks, Amy. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here to talk about a topic that I'm so passionate about. So let's talk about how we create greater brand and customer loyalty for your stores. It really starts with pairing your people with strong, consistent processes and better utilization of the technologies that you have available to you in your store. So how do we bring our people, processes, and technology together to help really drive that kind of customer retention life cycle? The customers that you spend your marketing dollars to bring into the dealership that purchase from you, how do we make sure or ensure that we're managing them back into the service department, that we retain them for the life of the vehicle, and that we ultimately manage them back into our sales department? Well, a few things. It's, again, having consistent processes in place and then having those processes powered by your people and the technology that they're able to use. And it starts when the customer first purchases the car. Having a process in place where a salesperson, for example, is taking the customers to the service department, introducing them to the service department and pointing out some of the features the service department has to offer to the customer whenever they're getting their vehicle service. Like, what do you have special about your store and your waiting room that you want to use as a selling point so that your customer knows that they're going to be taken care of and comfortable for the short amount of time that they have to wait to have their vehicle serviced. Having the salesperson, a process in place for the salesperson to take the customer to the service lane, make sure they do a proper introduction to a service advisor, walk around the service department, and then actually have a process for pre-booking. And ultimately, KPIs that are being measured. What percentage of our units out did we actually pre-book their first service appointment for 6 months out? And making sure that the customer knows, hey, we're going to go ahead and set you up for your service appointment. You just bought your vehicle from us. We want to make sure that we're able to help you take really good care of this vehicle. So we're going to set you up and call you closer to that appointment day and time and schedule it for the day and time that works best for your needs. Having that process in place and measuring its execution is going to ensure that you're able to manage those customers back in for their initial visit. Then having a team of people that are able to execute on the next step of that process, which is having the technology find those customers that were pre-booked, bubbling it up to a team of people that are able to reach out to proactively via an omni-channel approach, right? Text, phone call, email, determining what channel the customer communicates best with you, and making sure that that customer not only sets a solid appointment for a specific day and time on that first visit, but that they show. And then we're able to continue that process for the life cycle of their ownership of owning that vehicle. right? So we're able to regularly reach out to them, let them know that they have their next service scheduled, book a day and time that works for their needs, and manage that customer back into our service department so that they're not driving around on a Saturday morning realizing they need an oil change, so they stop in at the Grease Monkey down the road because it happens to be convenient for them. Instead, they're remembering, oh, you know what? I have that scheduled in 2 weeks from now at the dealer that I purchased from, and why that's important and valuable to them. And then again, similarly, having a process in place and technology that's able to mine our customer base and tell us which customers are in a positive equity position that are going to be bringing their vehicles in for service that we might want to do a proper appraisal on, reaching out to those customers, letting them know proactively that we'd like to do a professional appraisal on the vehicle, getting their buy-in on that so that we can ultimately manage them back onto the sales floor. This is a way that you can ensure that customers who buy from you, you are retaining through service and ultimately able to bring them back to the sales floor. It's just important that throughout that entire life cycle and process, that every interaction with the store, over the phone, online, and most importantly in person, is positive and efficient for them. So let's talk about some data and reasons about why customers defect from service specifically. So some of the reasons around customer defection go back to obviously experience, but what does that mean? What part of the experience isn't positive for them? Ultimately, it comes down to the bullet points that you see here. One of them is long wait times. Time is the killer of customer experience. We as consumers, and think of yourself for a minute, as a consumer outside of maybe your store in a different environment, I think we can all admit that we are, dare I say, a little high maintenance, a little spoiled. We have a lot of businesses that are catering to kind of our need for immediate gratification, right? You need something, you want something, you're able to complete it right now. You're able to get your answer right now, today. You don't have to wait a long time. We can get this done for you in the time that you need as quickly as possible. So really long wait times, but also an unwelcoming environment can really be a killer of the customer experience. The next piece is difficult appointment booking processes. Oftentimes it can be cumbersome to schedule online or difficult to get through over the phone. And after the customer tries once or sometimes twice, oftentimes it's just one time. If they call in and they can't get through, or if they go online and they find it difficult or confusing or too time consuming to schedule, they will oftentimes defect. You'll have a lack of consistent communication with the customer. Not telling them when they need to come in, not sending them those reminders, not telling them, hey, we've got to make sure that we get your vehicle in here to have this work done. So we're making sure we're taking good care of it. Customers, believe it or not, want to hear from you, and they want to know what they have to do to take good care of their vehicle so that they can keep it healthy for a long time. We all know that the average age of the vehicle on the road today is the highest it's ever been, at an average age of about 12 years. So customers today really want to take good care of their cars. There's also, of course, the perception that it costs more money to service with their dealer than it does at an independent store. And sometimes, while that may be true, if we really spend the time to educate the customers on why it's better and how they can retain a higher value for their vehicle if they are servicing with you rather than an independent store like a Jiffy Lube or a Grease Monkey down the road, they are more willing to spend more money in your location to have a good care of their vehicle, but also a positive experience and a fast and friendly service. And then lastly, it's the lack of personalization. Customers want to feel welcome. They want to feel like you know them and that you're already anticipating their needs. So I'd like to dive into specifically the appointment booking portion of this kind of customer experience killer in the service department. I'd like to break it down into web and then dive pretty deep into the phones. Let's start with web scheduling first. Oftentimes, web schedulers can be cumbersome or difficult for an average consumer to schedule an appointment for themselves. And some reasons for that are there are far too many services that are listed on the website, and the customer doesn't know which one to select based on what they need to bring their vehicle in for. Or maybe when they go to schedule online, the availability is too far out based on the transportation option that they're checking for. Oftentimes, I think we have a tendency to lock down the web scheduler from an availability or capacity standpoint because we have valid concerns around potentially overbooking the waiting room, for example. And so what happens, or what the result of those things can be, is that we'll see about 50% of the customers who visit your website to schedule a service will defect. They'll abandon that appointment booking process. It's too long, it was too hard, I'm just gonna get out of here. And our goal around having a web scheduler is to try to decrease the number of inbound calls that are ringing into the store so that our people don't have to deal with the ringing phones all the time. Well, we're kind of forcing, to a point, a lot of our web scheduling customers to call because we're making the website experience difficult or ineffective. And so what that results in is that the inbound phone calls still accounting for about 70% of the customer pay and warranty ROs that we're closing each month. Whether we like it or not, it remains true that the phones are the biggest lead source for service appointments today. And our goal is to really wrap our arms around the customers calling in, and making that as positive of an experience as possible, because that's oftentimes their first impression or their first exposure to that next service experience with you. And we want to make that as possible, as positive as we possibly can. Now let's talk about the calls that are ultimately answered by folks at the dealership. We know, to start, that an average service department is missing about 30% of their service phone calls to a black hole. For one reason or another, long wait times, the customer gets sent to voicemail and chooses not to leave a message, or they hang up while on hold, for example. Well, our goal is to connect more of those callers. Today, for callers that are connected, that are calling in to schedule an appointment, those appointable callers, we're seeing on average across the industry, about 44% of those callers are actually booking an appointment with the store. Let's talk a little bit about why that is. And some of these stats you might be pretty surprised to hear about. I certainly was surprised to see some of this data. But it remains true that on 66% of the calls, far more than half of the callers calling in, we are not typically making an attempt to capture additional contact information for the customer. So we're not updating another phone number, or checking to ensure we have the right email address, or update the email address. This is important because I mentioned earlier about how having people paired with process and technology is really the driver for customer retention. And if we're not consistently updating customers' contact information, phone, address, email, it makes our ability to utilize that technology and those people to reach out to customers and bring them back into the service department, it makes that far more difficult for you to be able to do. And it starts to make your people and your technology ineffective because the data that's driving it isn't as accurate or as up to date as possible. So that's kind of a disappointing statistic. 39% of the time we're not reviewing vehicle history, which means it's difficult to kind of make an attempt to recommend additional services for the customer to schedule when they're bringing their vehicle in if we're not reviewing the prior history. We're 30% of the time not even making an attempt to schedule a solid appointment. I listen to a lot of service phone calls, and it can be sometimes shocking to hear how many service calls customers are simply told, hey, just bring it in. There's no need to set an appointment with us. Just come in on whatever day and time works for you. And that is great in theory. However, when we leave it up to the customer, to bring the vehicle in at a day and time that works for them, rather than booking a solid appointment and confirming it via text, email, phone call, we're giving them the option to forget about that appointment, which can result in lost time and therefore money. And we're also leaving it up to them to, instead of coming to see us, to go to that other place that in their mind might be more convenient or a little cheaper to them. So it's really important that we take advantage of all the customers who are saying, hey, I want to do business with you, and really book a solid appointment for them. And then lastly, I really want to point out the 95% stat, because that one is even probably the most shocking. On 95% of the inbound service calls, nobody is recommending additional mileage-based maintenance to be added to their appointment. And we're not even checking for open recalls. And understanding that we have to get the recalls done, checking the VIN to see if there's a recall and that we can perform it, and having the customer have that work done when they're bringing their vehicle in is not only good for the store, but it's also good for the customer. And the customer is going to appreciate that as well. So those are just some of the challenges that we typically see with appointment scheduling over the phone specifically. So what can we do to start taking steps to enhance or improve our service experience? Well, the first step is, what does your experience look like to your customers? So I'm going to urge the attendees that we have on the call today, following this meeting, go to your website. Try to book a service appointment under a new customer, right? So don't use your existing phone number and your existing customer record. See what it's like for a new customer that is trying to schedule an appointment with you. How long does that take from start to finish? How cumbersome is or isn't that? How many services do you have listed? And then when you go to book a service, do a couple of them. Start with a basic oil change, but then also try to schedule yourself a diag. Understand what your availability is for each of those services, and then for each of those individual transportation options that you offer at your store. See what the customer sees when they go to book a service appointment with you, and try to look at that process through the lens of your consumer. What is their experience as they're doing this? And what would they be thinking as a customer as they're maneuvering through these steps? And then I'd like for you to also call your store and book a service appointment. I want you to do it this afternoon, and then I want you to do it a second time, come Monday morning, or maybe Saturday afternoon. Get an understanding of, are there people there that are available to answer within the first few seconds? Do I get sent to voicemail? How quickly do I get a call back? And again, look at it through the customer lens. What is this experience like for the consumer? And where are there opportunities for us to improve the experience that customer is having when they're reaching out to us to try to do business with us? Also, think about transparency. If I'm a consumer and I'm looking for how much things are on the website, is it available to me? Oftentimes, let's be honest, it's very easy for us to get the answers to our questions. And we, as consumers, are more apt to do business with dealerships, and any business for that matter, that we can easily find the answers to our questions. So communicate with transparency. If you call your store and you ask how much an oil change is, if you go to your website and you ask how much a service is, are you getting at least where that pricing can start at? Because the consumer is going to be more apt to trust you if you're able to be transparent with some of that. Also, commit to employee development, and this is an important one. And this comes down to advisors. It comes down to BDC staff, if you have those in-house, potentially cashiers, anybody who interacts with your customer in person or over the phone. Develop your employees so that they understand how to create kind of what we like to call moments of magic for the customers as they're interacting with your store. Teach them how to deliver an excellent experience by recognizing the type of personality that they're speaking to, what the customer needs, and helping that customer get that task completed as quickly as possible. And then lastly, drive revenue, but really drive appointment and retention rates through strategic outbound campaigns. Whether you're leaning on an in-house or an outsourced team, have a process in place to reach out to your customers, again, to pull them back into your service department rather than hoping that they're going to come back for their next appointment with you. Now, how can we stop defectors before they leave, or how can we begin to win them back? Amy, would you like to take this one?
Sure, thank you. And Tiffany, one of the things that you just talked about flows right into that first bullet point of how do we stop defectors. When you were talking about auditing your own online scheduling process, I think as people in the industry, we have the curse of knowledge, right? So when we get onto the online scheduling tool and we see all of these offerings that make sense to us, when a consumer who is not in the business has no clue what some of these packages are, it's going to be very confusing, and that's going to be another defection point. So I have 3 adult children, 26, 24, 22. My youngest is an auto, the other 2 aren't. I make them go through dealership websites and try to set appointments. And if they don't know what the packages are, or they can't find their the basic services they're looking for, then I let the dealership know. So that's just another little add-on to exactly what you were talking about.
Yep, exactly.
But how can we stop defectors before they leave? Well, I think Tiffany very concisely talked about the need to improve in customer experience, from online to phone calls to the in-person experience that you have at the dealership. How can we improve that for service? Making sure things are personalized, discussing vehicle concerns. And then I also think a big improver of customer experience is when you go through the multi-point vehicle inspection, look at the red, like this needs to be done now, but then also acknowledge the yellow and the green. Because if you let a dealership know that there's going to be some things that are down the road, like, listen, your tires are okay right now, but we know that in 6 months, you're probably going to be a new set. First of all, you're telling the consumer, I'm not trying to get your money right now. And then secondly, you're letting them know so that they're prepared when they come in again that this is going to be an issue. But improving that customer experience, having better communication and engagement, increasing efficiencies through use of technologies that we're going to talk about in a bit, enhanced problem solving, being able to spend more time with the customers as opposed to focusing on mundane tasks. All of these different elements are going to be able to stop defectors before they leave, or we'll be able to win them back through these different actions. And this is where Better Car People comes in. So you have 2 choices. Well, you have more than 2 choices, but right now for this purpose, you have 2 choices. You can set up your own Service BDC. Many dealerships do this, but that also comes with time. It comes with training, hiring people, benefits, and then having to make sure that they're consistently doing what they need to do. So that follow-up and that engagement with the Service BDC to make sure that they're on track. It's definitely doable, but sometimes it can seem insurmountable and it can be very expensive. So Better Car People has a few solutions to help with these scenarios. Our Service BDC handles all inbound service calls and alerts. Now, we do this through our partnership and new integrations with Proactive Dealer Solutions, which is now part of Better Car People. So we have the benefit of Brook AI, who can handle all of those inbound service calls with amazing artificial intelligence. And we have the human side as well. So when it comes to a point where the customer can no longer get the answers that they need from our AI, Brook, then we have live onshore agents that will help and assist with this. We're empowering your service advisors because truly we're trying to give them time to be with your most important and valuable commodity, and that is your customer. So taking a lot of these inbound calls and these engagement off of their hands will allow them to spend more time with your customers, really engage with them, really talk to them and educate them on what's going on with their car so that they feel empowered. And then we're going to boost customer satisfaction because, as Tiffany said, we are a society that wants things now, and I do not like to wait on the phone. I know that if it takes longer than maybe 30 seconds to book something, I am just going to abandon. I may call if I really want it, but we want to make sure that we're boosting that customer satisfaction, that customers don't get lost in a loop, they don't get hung up on, and they don't get frustrated by trying to get the services they want to get from you. So all of those different elements are available through Service BDC. We'll talk a little bit more about those. And then some additional add-ons for that would be our campaign calls, which I want to talk about right now. So one of the best ways that we've found to re-engage customers is to actually reach out to them. Go figure. Tiffany had talked about making sure that we are reaching out to current customers or reaching out to maybe customers who haven't been in service in maybe 8 months, 9 months, 12 months. Re-engaging them, reminding them of who you are and the value that you bring. So with this, with our campaign calls, we have 2 phone calls that we make. We send out emails, and we can focus on sales and service manifest lists. Those lists are wide, and I know that you are all very familiar with the different ways and different groupings that we need to contact our current customers or our defectors. This is just some of the list of campaigns that we can call, but truly, if you have a list in your database of customers that you want to reach out to, we have agents that is all they do. And we did know that dealers using BCP Outbound are seeing an average maintenance retention score of 86%. Now, this number came from a study that we did with another one of our OEM partners, and I think that's a valuable number. 86% retention is something that I think we strive for, and I think that outbound calls could definitely assist with that. But think about seasonal tire changes, customer satisfaction, recalls, service promotions, car clinics, all of these different elements. We would love to make those calls and those engagements with your customers.
Yep, so I would like to jump in and talk a little bit about the inbound side. Amy talked for a moment about how Brook.ai is now can be a part of the Service BDC. I want to talk a little bit about why we're pairing technology with people to provide a service to our dealer partners. People are, I'm just be honest with the folks on the webinar, people are expensive. And our goal with offering this solution, the Service BDC solution to the stores, is to free your people up and create time for them. Time where they can focus on more value-added activities and not the routine, kind of mundane, inbound, reactionary requests. We are using our technology to do the same thing for our guest experience center agents. Our goal is for our agents to be available to ensure we keep hold times nearly non-existent. We don't want customers to hold when they get to the technology and they ask for a person. We also want to retain our agents for a long period of time. I'm sure everybody on the call is aware that a BDC agent position often has a high level of turnover, right? The turnover rates in a call center are typically pretty high. We are able to keep our agents for a long period of time. We have many agents that have been with us for nearly a handful of years. And the reason for that is because we are using technology to handle the brunt of the mundane or routine inbound tasks that they're getting on behalf of the stores that they're taking inbound calls for. So ultimately, this allows our people to be able to focus on the more complex inbound requests and focus more of their time on the outbound revenue generating campaigns that we're doing on behalf of the stores that we support with Service BDC. This creates happier agents, but also more skilled agents. Agents that have been in place for a longer period of time, have heard more objections, have been exposed to more training, are agents that are more skilled in handling the more complex the requests that come through. So it makes our team more effective than a lot of the other outsourced solutions that might exist in the space. It also makes our agents more productive and ultimately will improve your customer's experience whenever they get through to a person. So again, we are pairing the Brook.ai tool with live people to provide our dealers a solution that is low cost and highly effective, nearly eliminating hold times and creating 24/7 availability for customers to book over the phone. But I do want to make it clear that we have plenty of options available to all of you. Whether you are open and ready to lean on AI and pair that with a group of highly trained onshore agents to handle all of your inbound requests, or if maybe you're not ready because you feel like it might not be the right fit for your store or your customer base. And so right now you want to answer all of your inbound calls, but maybe you want to do it with only people. We are able to create packages that fit each of the dealers that need some support from our customer care department. So we can give you packages that are the AI plus the people, or the people only. And I'm also aware that a lot of the stores on the call today could be a part of a larger group. Maybe you are part of maybe your inbound service calls are being handled by an offsite centralized BDC that your dealer group is a part of, that your store is a part of. My question to you is there a process for the outbound piece? If that's the case, if you're handling inbound calls well and that's handled offsite and you can't impact what you're doing on the inbound side, do you have a process for the outbound? Do you have great tech and well-trained people to execute on those outbound campaigns that we've discussed earlier? Amy, anything you'd like to add?
No, I like that you drove home the idea that this is very customizable in the sense of you can have the AI and the people, you can have the people, you can have the AI. We really want to work with you to meet your needs where you are.
Right. Yep, exactly. Now to wrap up, I'd like to cover a quick case study. So wanted to share with you a case study of a dealer that we worked with fairly recently. A little background on the store. This store had measuring call abandonment rates. So this is one of the stores that was actually measuring their service calls. So what percentage of the overall service calls were resulting in a failed call, as we like to call it, right? And failed calls, as I mentioned earlier, are customers who call in, they hang up while on hold, or they make it to a voicemail, they choose not to leave a message, or maybe they can't leave a message, or they hang up during the ring transfer, for example. So this store is one of the few stores actually measuring that for the service side of the house. And they reached out initially because they had a 16% call abandonment rate. They were saying, hey, we're missing 16% of just our service calls alone. Not terribly high, right? Still below what the average store is seeing at the 20% mark, but we want to decrease that. We really want to maximize the callers that we have calling in. So what we did is we implemented the AI plus people program for them. So we gave them access to the digital voice assistant that was backed by live onshore agents to answer all the inbound calls. The goal here was really to, like I mentioned, decrease the lost call rate. And they had an incentive that was offered to them if they were able to get that call failure rate down below the 10% mark. So they really wanted to do that. They also wanted to drive appointment volumes, right? So their goal was to increase appointment rates while decreasing the hold times and abandoned call rates. And then also wanted to focus a little bit on CSI. They had some concerns though, as most stores do, because most stores are a little weary of AI and this new technology. I think we all can safely say that we're a little weary of it. They had concerns specifically about their customers adopting this type of solution. I don't know, I live in a more rural area, I have older customers in our location, I'm not quite sure if they're used to it, or if they're going to be able to appoint with it or use the technology. But they pushed forward nonetheless, because we were pairing it with the people, and if the customer needed or wanted to talk to somebody, they would always be transferred to a live agent to be helped. One of the other challenges is what I mentioned earlier. This store really locked down their scheduler online. So what I mean by that is they were concerned about really overbooking the waiting room. And they were concerned because they had a higher volume of walk-in customers. And so they really locked down availability. They had the capacity to take next day appointments, but their first available, they were booking out 4 or 5 days. And so there was some challenges with that with customers that were booking online. Well, we implemented our AI plus people program, and some of the results that we saw were that the advisors that were answering the call, along with their one appointment coordinator to handle all business hours, those folks were able to repurpose all of that time that they previously spent trying to answer the phones and schedule appointments. They were able to repurpose that time. The advisors repurposed that time and spent it on the customer in the lane. They did proper walkarounds. They also spent it on making outbound status update text messages and phone calls to the customers. Their appointment coordinator that they had that was previously very overwhelmed with the call volume and really took the brunt for the call failure rate, that appointment coordinator was able to start some of those outbound retention campaigns that we mentioned, those real appointment driving type of outbound call campaigns. And the results of all of this was that the store went from a 16% call failure rate to a 6% call failure rate within the first 30 days of launching the tool. There's always going to be some calls that get through where the customer ends up, pressing 1 to leave a message, and then they don't, or they hang up right when somebody answers the phone. So there's always going to be some of that call failure rate. But to see a 10-point improvement almost immediately was really impressive and exciting for this store. They also were able to see a pretty drastic, I think, turn or increase in appointments set. Now, the reason for this was 2 parts. One, they captured more of the inbound callers and appointed at a higher rate because there was a level of consistency, capturing information, booking solid appointments, doing a confirmation. They also had their appointment coordinator repurposed to focus on that outbound. And that person was offered some training with us and ultimately was able to execute at a very high level. What it resulted in was a 17% increase in appointments. So we looked at monthly appointment rates increasing from previously, just under 1,800 to just over 2,000 appointments from month to month. And then lastly, also saw an improvement in revenue growth. Now, I mentioned how the advisors were doing proper walkarounds and spending more time with the customers in the lane. And what we saw happen here because of that and because of the consistency of the inbound call with the AI and the people always recommending additional services if that vehicle was due, it helped to drive dollars per as well. So we went from $362 per RO to ultimately $422 per RO in year over year improvement. It was a pretty great case study on a partner of ours that saw some pretty exciting results. Amy, you want to help us out?
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. First of all, thank you for your wealth of knowledge and the ability to talk through so many of these different issues with experience. We know that there are going to be customer experience issues in the service lane, and what we want to do is help guide you through those, help give you some of the tools that you need. And if you want to, again, address your issues on your own and work with your own team, that is always an option. If you are looking for someone to help and assist, Better Car People would love to do that as well. But if you do have any questions, so after this webinar, if you have some questions that you want to ask, or if you want to get in touch with us, feel free to scan that code, and that will be my direct information, and I will get you in touch with some of our experts that can help guide you through the solutions that we have. But overall, thank you so much for having us. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, attendees, for being on today's webinar. And Amy and Tiffany, thank you both for some great information. Everyone will be receiving an email from GoToWebinar tomorrow with a link to this recording if you want to watch it on demand. And please grab Amy's contact information before you go. Thank you and have a wonderful day.